All right, let's talk about Asante Samuel Jr. Why don't we? A player who I think definitely is worth talking about. He was very hyped up coming out of college. Big chunk of it was because of his dad being a well-known NFL player. He was a second-round pick, so there still was some hype on his own. But I thought that we saw a massive jump from him from year 1 to year 2. If you look at his Pro Football Focus grades, they agree as, they were not very impressed with him as a rookie. And to be honest, I was kind of on their side. I didn't love his rookie season, and I didn't love him coming out of college. I thought that he was kind of getting overhyped due to being named Asante Samuel. But in 2022, he proved me wrong by having a very good year, a 72.6 grade and a 76.1 coverage grade. He showed that no, this is not just nepotism. He deserves to be here. So good on him for proving me wrong. And let's talk about what he did well and also still some ways he could continue to improve at this point early on in his career. So first, let's start off with this play. I wanted to bring up some of the, his banner game at this point was the game against the Jaguars where he, unfortunately was on the losing side of it, but did have 3 interceptions, was a huge part of the reason why they got up so big to begin with in that game. And I thought that, listen, you're never going to win every single rep in a specific game. The fact that they lost was very much outside of his control, I thought. But let's talk about some of the plays he made early on that got them to be in a good position. This one, which isn't an interception, but still a very good play, it's going to be a one-on-one matchup right here on the outside. And again, these are the kind of things you wonder with your corner, how well can you win on? You got a receiver who's lined up one-on-one on the outside. It's Zay Jones here. Okay, I'm not, he's not exactly Calvin Johnson, but he's still an effective player. I like Zay Jones as a player. And watch what's going to happen. You see right when this play begins, given how far off Samuel Jr. was playing, there's a 5-yard chunk in between them of separation. Now, luckily, Lawrence isn't exactly on this read, but he's about to get there. So for Samuel Jr., he has to get there in a hurry, and that's really where I think I like that's where Samuel Jr. Shines, in my opinion. Very similar to his father, in fact, of being able to break in on these types of plays. Watch him move in, and he is going to knock that ball away and force an incompletion. That was, to me, a very good play. Listen, sometimes you're going to get out of position. To me, this was more of a schemed out of position thing. I don't think he did anything wrong on that play, but now he had a lot of ground to cover, and the fact that he was able to cover that ground, get over, and force that incompletion, yeah, to me, that is a very positive play. Heading over here, to me, this is, again, he had the 3 interceptions, but this one was probably my favorite of the 3 because this was just a smart play where it's zone coverage. He is the corner in charge of covering the top of the screen. So typically where you kind of cover is outside the numbers 5 to 15 yards down the field. That's typically your assignment on this play. However, right when this play begins, for one thing, he's not really doing that. I mean, there was, it's Zay Jones once again, a receiver in that area who he passes off because he was running further deep, which is the correct read. And, at this point, Samuel looks up and says, well, no one's around me right now, so why would I just cover grass? Let me make sure I move to cover potential routes, where he looks over and sees some of these underneath routes on this 3rd down situation are looking to be where Lawrence is going to want to throw the football. Again, situation matters. 3rd down, they have to get to the 24-yard line. So while technically you look at this play and say, well, you're supposed to cover 5 to 15 yards down the field, if he's, 7 yards further deep, 5 yards further deep is where the 1st down marker is. Your job is, to some degree, also to play the situation and not allow a 1st down. So because he's being smart and getting himself in as good a position as possible, he now is able to read this play and sees where those 2, Jaguars players are. Now, one's running to the opposite side of him, so he's not going to look over there, but one's running towards him, so he's going to look there and basically say, hey, not only do I think I know where you're throwing this football, I'm almost sure I know where you're throwing this football if you throw it in this direction, so why would I just sit back and let you make the throw and try to make a tackle, when instead he steps in front of the route and gets the interception out of it. That is a spectacular play by Asante Samuel Jr., and these are the high IQ plays that, again, you would see his father make, and part of why he was able to be so successful, and we're now seeing Samuel Jr. be able to do those exact same things. In fact, I wanted to watch his worst game as well, so we're kind of showing some tape from his best game last year and his worst game last year. The worst game was against Kansas City, debatably his worst game, but a lot of these losses, I have a hard time really blaming him too much. Like, in this situation, he's supposed to be covering Travis Kelce one-on-one. So, like, that alone, I don't care if he makes you look stupid. Like, it's Travis Kelce. He makes everyone look stupid. So, like, I wouldn't even hold that against him. But that's not really what happened. Watch how when this play begins, you see Kelce runs a good route, gets over the middle, but right now, there's not a ton of separation. Now, Mahomes is still going to say, it's Travis Kelce. He's down there somewhere. Let me, put the ball in his hands. I'm sure we'll find a way to make this work. It's great defense from Samuel, but a better throw from Mahomes and a, good catch by Kelce as well. And also, Kelce somehow gets a touchdown out of that because he's Travis Kelce. But, that was really good defense by Asante Samuel Jr. I look at that and say, yeah, good play. Like, don't worry about it. Shake it off. You'll get him next time because, yes, if a quarterback makes a great throw and it's a great, receiving target, then yes, sometimes you will still give up catches and give up touchdowns. That technically means he gave up a touchdown on that play, which is just kind of why that stat isn't really, it's not really worth paying too much attention to, in my opinion, because it's just not, he didn't do really anything wrong there, in my opinion. Now, heading over here, this is an interesting play to me. So what's going to happen here is, this is probably the one, I think, critique that I would have. That's, a bigger critique on Samuel Jr. Not like some small, maybe, nitpicks I have. This is something that just, it's part of who he is as a player. He's just not a very big guy. Like, that's just really what it comes down to. And it was one of those things where in college, he was actually a pretty physical player, but also, like, just given his stature, you felt like it wouldn't work as well in the NFL, and that's kind of been the case. You have a tight end who's going to be going out blocking him here. As you see, Mahomes flips this ball to Kelce. Samuel does, really gets himself in a tough spot here to try and get around this block at this point as well, which certainly does not help. And not only does he get blocked, but he actually gets blocked into one of his own guys, the only guy that really had a chance on that play. Not sure what would have happened either way. It looked like that was destined for a touchdown regardless, but just saying in general, watching the film of Samuel Jr., the lack of height definitely came into play, more so in the run defense game, not being able to do that too much. I will say this, though, he wasn't a mess out there, and that's really kind of all you need as a run defender. I mean, he wasn't great, and maybe I think you would still like to see him be a little bit better there, but he wasn't like a disaster either, to the point where, sometimes you see these guys who are such a bad run defender that teams will just run the ball in that area because they know you're not going to make your block, and they can pick up good runs consistently. Run defense does matter at the cornerback position, but it matters more so in terms of just not being terrible than it does, like, the difference between terrible and okay is significantly wider than the difference between good and great. So, he was okay last year. Maybe even okay is too nice of it, but he wasn't a disaster, which is what you're trying to, make sure you avoid there. So, yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on Samuel as a player. Really good, really promising second year, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, and can he continue to grow and become a spectacular player? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.